It's been a busy month in the fight against fentanyl and emerging synthetic poisons. In September 2025, we've seen record border seizures, new prosecutions under death by delivery laws, and the first confirmed appearance of new synthetic opioids 100 times stronger than fentanyl in the Northeast. Each story reminds us this isn't a drug problem, it's a poison problem. And while law enforcement is working hard to intercept these deadly shipments, traffickers continue to evolve, hiding their supply in new, increasingly deceptive ways. Let's look at what's making headlines this month. You're listening to Logan's Voice, a podcast for truth, awareness, hope, and healing. I'm Doug Ballinger, Logan's dad. Here we confront the realities of America's poison drug supply. Fentanyl, Xylazine, Nitazene, and other evolving synthetics claiming lives across the country every single day. Before we dive in, please take a second to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell and leave a comment below to tell us where you're listening from. Your engagement helps spread awareness, and that awareness saves lives. There was a border bust, $3.7 million in fentanyl and cocaine seized in Laredo. This month, Customs and Border Protection officers in Laredo, Texas announced one of the largest multi-day seizures to date. On September 19th at the World Trade Bridge, officers inspected a commercial tractor trailer and found 32 packages of fentanyl, nearly 75 pounds, hidden inside the cargo. The load carried an estimated street value of $1.7 million. Two additional trucks that same day were found carrying another 45 pounds of fentanyl and over 37 pounds of cocaine. Then on September 21st, officers at the Juarez-Lincoln Bridge discovered 14 pounds of heroin and nearly 5 pounds of methamphetamine concealed inside a pickup truck. In total, agents seized over 177 pounds of narcotics, arrested 4 suspects, and turned the cases over to Homeland Security investigations. Officials called the bust a critical blow to cartel networks moving poison through Texas. Next, there's an ultra-potent Nitazene seizure in the Northeast, Long Island. On September 16th, New York officials confirmed the first detection of new Nitazene compounds, estimated to be 100 times stronger than fentanyl, during a raid in Hicksville, Long Island. The raid uncovered counterfeit oxycodone pills, methamphetamine, cocaine, explosive materials, and large quantities of gunpowder. Authorities arrested 34-year-old Anthony Giatiampo, who is now facing multiple narcotics and weapons charges. Toxicology reports confirmed that the compound was a potent Nitazene analog, part of a growing family of synthetic opioids created in illegal labs to mimic fentanyl while evading drug laws. Officials warned that a single grain could be fatal, and naloxone may require multiple doses to reverse an overdose. This marks the first confirmed Nitazene seizure in the Northeast, and experts fear more analogs will follow. Meth hidden in frozen mango shipment. In one of the most creative and disturbing smuggling attempts so far this year, Customs and Border Patrol officers at the World Trade Bridge in Laredo stopped a tractor trailer loaded with frozen mangoes on September 9th. After a non-intrusive imaging scan and a canine alert, officers discovered 733 tightly wrapped packages of methamphetamine, weighing a staggering 1,791 pounds. And worth more than $16 million. Officials said traffickers are increasingly using legitimate food shipments to conceal narcotics, blending deadly poison with everyday commerce. CBP called it a textbook example of how cartels adapt to evade detection, but also proof that advanced screening tech and trained agents are making a difference. Next, a modified vehicle smuggling attempt in Laredo, Texas. In another Laredo case reported this month, 49-year-old Mexican national Eric Villegas Cusi pleaded guilty to conspiring to import narcotics after authorities discovered a hidden compartment built into the undercarriage of his vehicle. Agents found 4 kilograms of fentanyl and 2 kilograms of cocaine welded into a false cavity near the muffler and catalytic converter. Initially, he claimed he was unaware of the drugs, blaming a local mechanic. But investigators uncovered text messages proving coordination with traffickers. He now faces up to life in prison and $1 million in fine. Homeland Security official called the case another example of how drug cartels are turning everyday vehicles into covert smuggling tools. And in Oklahoma, a trio was sentenced in a fentanyl overdose death. In Oklahoma, 3 people were sentenced this month to a combined 26 years in federal prison for their role in distributing fentanyl that caused a fatal overdose. Prosecutors said this case reflects a growing use of death by delivery laws, where those responsible for selling or supplying a fatal dose can now be prosecuted as if they committed homicide. Families impacted by overdose deaths are increasingly calling for accountability through these statutes. But public health advocates warn that these laws can unintentionally discourage bystanders from calling 911 in time. It's a complex and emotional issue, balancing justice for victims with compassion for those caught in addiction. Next, we go to Bloomfield, New Mexico. Trafficking and firearm charges. On September 24th, federal prosecutors in Bloomfield, New Mexico charged a 27-year-old man with trafficking fentanyl and methamphetamine and possessing a firearm in furtherance of a drug crime. If convicted, he faces up to 45 years in prison. Law enforcement said this case is part of a broader trend. Traffickers in small towns and rural areas are arming themselves, using violence to protect their trade routes and expanding far beyond traditional cartel corridors. Next, we move to Gaston County, North Carolina, where the 23 felony counts were filed. In Gaston County, North Carolina, a 34-year-old woman named Demetria Blackman was arrested and charged with 23 felony accounts of trafficking and possession with intent to deliver fentanyl. Police said her arrest followed a multi-agency sting involving undercover buys and surveillance that linked her to fentanyl distribution in several neighboring counties. This case, like many across the Southeast, shows how this epidemic shifted. No longer confined to big cities, but now deeply embedded in suburban and rural communities. These stories make one thing clear. This crisis is evolving faster than we can respond. Traffickers are adapting. Chemists are creating new compounds. And families like ours are still losing loved ones every day. Behind every pound seized, every arrest made, there's a life that might have been saved, and thousands more still at risk. But we can't just rely on headlines. It takes awareness, education, and advocacy at every level, from the border to the classroom to the kitchen table. Because when we know the truth, we make better choices, and we speak louder against silence. If this update gave you a perspective, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that bell so you never miss an episode, and leave a comment. Tell us which story stood out most or what's happening in your community. You can also visit logansvoice.org for resources, awareness, and ways to connect, where families and advocates come together to fight this epidemic with love, truth, and unity. I'm Doug Ballinger. I am Logan's Voice, I am Logan's dad, and I will not be silent.